guys, welcome back to another episode at My Bangla Official. Today we have here Shuhena. I've actually been admiring Shuhena's page and stories and cycling hauls and things like that. But let me just introduce you to her and then she can tell us a little bit more about what she does. So this is Shuhena. Shuhena, if you can, well, from your page, I can tell that you're a lawyer and a cyclist, but if you would like to just give us a brief introduction of yourself and what you're doing with yourself right at this very moment within work, life, that'd be great.
I probably should have said the pronunciation of my name is Shuhena, but most people call me Shu, so like I don't even have to like make that correction.
Yeah.
I work in financial services. I'm about a 4-year qualified lawyer. I do a lot of cycling. And I guess I went from not knowing how to ride to sort of riding like a hybrid bike to parks and stuff, to riding with a club, to sort of being recognized and working with brands and being an ambassador for different brands, and getting a lot more involved in sharing the sport with our community who perhaps don't find someone like myself in a hijab riding a bike very normal.
Yeah, I would like to touch upon that going forward. But I mean, I think looking at your page, I know that the first post of a cycle on your page for us to view was 2018. However, I don't know exactly when you started. So you can tell us how you actually came about cycling. How did that passion start? Because obviously I was looking at your posts, viewing videos. There's a lot you've done. Like it's very active on the cycling side. Like when I look at your page, that's what drew me to it. Like there's a hijabi girl on the bike who's cycling from A to Z, and you've been to a lot of places. There's one post in particular that stood out to me, and I read the description, and it was I think it was in Dubai. You went to Dubai and you were riding on a road bike. I don't know whether that's the right terminology, but I picked that up.
Yeah, road bike,
yeah. So you also mentioned that although you're a cyclist and you're absolutely passionate about it, that your sisters, you've got 6 sisters, alhamdulillah, mashallah, who have no interest in it. I mean, so tell me, how did you spark that love?
I feel I'm forever wanting a DNA test. I'm forever saying to my mum, I think I'm adopted.
Oh dear.
Because I'm nothing like my sisters. My sisters are quite traditional, very much like all of them got married quite young. All of them had kids quite young. Even my younger sister has got a little boy. So it's like my trajectory in life has been very different. How I got into bikes, around the time of the Olympics, there's a Muslim group in Myland, and the sister, she's English. She her and her husband had funding to teach people to ride bikes. So she did like women's only sessions and they would provide the bikes. So it was kind of like for me, I really want to learn how to ride, because I'm from a family of like girls. Like we just never did that kind of thing. Like my brother knew how to ride a bike, but I didn't know. So I remember like falling over in Victoria Park, and it was a little bit embarrassing, and I didn't quite understand how to ride a bike. And it took me a couple sessions to get it. And to be fair, I thought like me cycling from Myland Park to Victoria Park, that was it. That was my journey. I went and got an ice cream and that was my achievement. Like I didn't think that cycling went much beyond that. And even if it did go beyond that, that wasn't within my reach. So it's like at school, when you're told that you're only capable of getting a certain grade, or you're only capable of getting a certain level, and then you only sort of limit your aspirations to that. So I found that with my hybrid bike, I was kind of going up and down the canals. Now I hate the canals. and that was pretty much it. And I parked it and I left it at that. And then it was in 2018 that I went to Dubai and I tried my first ever road bike on the Al Qudra track, and that's a very famous track. It's 100 kilometers, designed for cyclists. Cars aren't allowed on it.
Oh.
And so a lot of the pros will, like, when they do the UAE tour and stuff, a lot of the professional cyclists will go there to train. And so I did that, and I loved it, and I was like, oh wow. But it was all kind of like a bit strange to me. And without going into the politics of it, I don't really talk about it, but I think it's kind of relevant in our community, given that my mum is constantly nagging at me about why I'm not married, and is that bike my husband. That actually the irony of how I got into cycling is, when I came back from Hajj, I got introduced to this guy, and he was into cycling.
Okay.
He would just send me like constant pictures of his bike and his cycling, and it was just like, he would never take me, and I just didn't understand why he wouldn't take me. So when I went to Dubai and I did it myself, it was kind of like, I don't need you, right? I could do this myself. Yeah. And he did introduce me to a group, and they helped me with a bike. But the frustrating thing is, again, in our community, that charity group, I don't really want to name names, but they were not very supportive of women, and they were not supportive of my aspirations. I'm not thinking, if Tom, Dick and Harry are going to Brighton and Cambridge, why can't I go? And I'm looking on Strava, and I'm looking like, so Strava is like a social media app for exercise.
Yeah.
So if I do a bike ride, people will know what I've done, where I've gone, who I've gone with, all that jazz. And it's just like, some of these blokes are slower than me, and they're allowed to go to Cambridge, but I'm not. I couldn't fathom it. And it's caused a lot of like controversy within the community, because my aspirations were very, very different in 2018 to what the other girls wanted to do. And I think that's changing now, like in the pandemic, because people, there's more people on bikes, there's more opportunities, there's more women wanting to do the longer rides. But at the time, there was no one like me, and I couldn't find anyone to like relate to. There were two Muslim girls that I met in mainstream cycling, who were very, very, very good. You know, they'd cycled abroad and stuff, but they, again, weren't very relatable in that they didn't wear hijab. And it's not just about hijab. Like, I feel like, so for some people, religion isn't at the forefront of their identity. So like, you can not wear hijab, but like talk about Islam 24/7. But you can wear the hijab and then just be an outfit of the day girl, right? So it's kind of like with these individuals, I found it quite challenging as well to share my faith. And also, like, I didn't really live close to them or anything like that. So I think for me, it was just like harnessing all of my non-Muslim friends and seeing the clubs that they were part of. You know, I didn't know what Rafa was until one of my friends started giving me Rafa presents for my birthday. I saw some of the things that Rafa were doing for it, like introduction to like beginner cyclists like myself. That led to me joining Hub Velo, which is my local club in Hackney. And I remember like going on my first ride to like a club ride. And on club rides, you have to be the same ability of the other people. Okay. And I wasn't on the ability of anybody. And I remember like they all just left me behind. And then Gary, one of the owners of the shop, like he stayed with me the whole 50 kilometers. And he's like, this is how you change your gears. Like, you're going to finish this ride whether you like it or not. And I remember him just sticking with me the whole time. And it was like over 30 degrees heat. I was in like proper hijab, and like I didn't really think through what I was wearing. It was really, really hot. And alhamdulillah, it was just like groups like that kept me going. I won't lie, I sort of fell in and out of love with cycling because I broke my arm the first year I got into it. So after I broke my arm, it was kind of like, maybe this isn't for me. Yeah. And I kind of like didn't want to roll with it. Eventually I bought my own bike. So I left the charities bike and I did my own bike. And then again, I didn't have like the full confidence to like ride. I think one thing that was very symbolic in 2019 about my riding was my dad passed away, so of around 2019. Yeah. And that was really, really hard because my dad was sick for like 10 years. And then finally like letting go of my dad And then suddenly I just channeled all of my energy to cycling. And I was saying to someone this morning, cycling can be a distraction, and they don't understand what I mean. I mean, like, from your grief and your trauma and the things that you're experiencing in life, I feel like cycling is then becomes that sanctuary. And so my dad died on a Friday.
It's a way to cope. It's a coping mechanism for many people, as other sports as well. It's a coping mechanism, isn't it? And people
So
reasons, and it helps them mentally, emotionally, and so forth. I really wanted to touch upon how the community you're in view this, and obviously I'm sure as a hijabi cyclist, people have maybe seen you around, even like friends, family, or whatever. How have they viewed you? Has there been any restrictions, any kind of like eyebrow raising and things like that? I'd love to know how that's viewed you.
I think more so in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started out, my mum was embarrassed. I remember my younger sister got married in 2018, and obviously we were having like events and stuff in our house, and my mum just wanted the bike gone. She just didn't want the bike, anyone to be able to see it. Okay. And the funniest thing is, there's 3 bikes and a turbo in my conservatory now, and no one says anything. In fact, some of my dullabais will be like, they want a bike, like, why can't I get them a sponsored bike? So yeah, like, I think at the beginning, yes, it was kind of something that my mum didn't want to share with the rest of the family, something the rest of my family felt embarrassed about. I think it's hard to shy away now, because I was on a billboard, like a 10-foot billboard in Canary Wharf. You can't really miss me. And then also I went on Channel S.
Yeah,
and then I had my granny in Bangladesh watch it, like my khala, like my sister. Like people in Bangladesh watch it and stuff. So that again kind of normalized it, but
connection between us here in the UK and the Bangladeshi community, and for you doing something that isn't really what a young Muslim Bengali does. You're making that connection, and they're seeing these, and you know what, I think you are an inspiration, and I know that it. There's a lot of people that are very inspiring, and they don't know the knock-on effects and the ripples that they're causing. Because I know young, I don't want to keep saying females, because I know there might be some young males that might look at you and think, you know what, I've got a sister there that's doing something amazing. Why can't I do that? I can do that too. Because within our culture and society, whether we like it or not, our parents don't just limit females, they limit the males in our households as well, which is really sad, because they don't get to do what they love because of what other people are going to think. It's really, really sad. But going forward, I think you've got the ability to make a stance within your community whereby you've got a social media presence now. You can get a lot of young girls doing this. I mean, going forward, would you ever be thinking of maybe setting up your own cycle runs, like weekly, monthly?
We've talked about this a fair bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's quite challenging for me right now with infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
If one of the charities set this up and say, sisters, it doesn't matter if it takes you all day long to get to Southend, we will support you, right? And we will have tea and coffee stops every 10 miles and that kind of stuff. When you have all the infrastructure, the cars, the support to do all of that, it's great, right? I think for me, I'm a bit limited in those types of resources, but I'm also a little bit limited in my time, given that there's a lot of expectations upon me from my brands, from the people that I work with, that is not shown on social media. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm having like a lengthy Zoom call with the global director of one of my sponsors, who's in America, no one's seeing that. No one's seeing all of the different pieces of the puzzle. The one thing that I have become quite invested in this moment in time, and I do have time and resource for it, is to change the mindset of some of the young girls.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of a project which supports young girls not all Muslim, but a fair few are Muslim. It's about the underprivileged girls. So they're all about, you know, between 10 and 12. And, you know, they live in council estates, and they have to be within that criteria, you know, free school meals type criteria in order to take part in this project. And the project has funding to give them bikes. Those are the girls that I really want to target, because they're not disillusioned with the world. They're not being told to get married. They're not being told to wear X, Y, or Z. You know, you've got to wear the hijab now, itafarena, blah, blah, blah. They're not having all of that. So I'm channeling a lot of my energy into doing that project, because it's already an established project. They just want to support me, so they'll give me like the right training and safeguarding and stuff for me to do it. But also the second thing I want to do is connect athletes. So a lot of the famous female cyclists who are in the Olympics or who are professional racers, to get them to do Zoom calls with these girls, especially the Muslim girls, to say, you know what, actually cycling doesn't have to be your hobby. It doesn't have to be going to the park. You know what, actually, if you want to make it your job, it's very doable. But telling them that message at a young age, not telling them when they're 20 and things are already set in stone for them.
I really want to quickly touch upon your achievements, because, you know, I'm very proud of you as a Bengali to say that, you know, you're an ambassador for Rafa, like Vlakar, and then you know, the cyclists, the Commondale Road. How does that make you feel? That first approach for them to email you or message you and say, hey, we're so and so, you know, we've seen what you do, we think it's amazing, would you love to be, you know, be on our programs and so forth and be sponsored by us? Please tell me how that makes you feel.
I think it happened a little bit more organically than that. So it didn't really happen with like, oh, let's make you an ambassador. It was like, we're going to send you a bike. Because it happened as a joke. Like, I remember it was my 30th birthday, and I was chatting to the guy on Cannondale, and he was like, obviously my personal bike was a Cannondale, like my own bike that I'd bought, and that was all over the Rafa campaign. So I said to him, where's my birthday bike? You know, is my birthday bike in the post? Because I'm just really cheeky like that. I honestly was like joking.
When you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, so then I was genuinely joking, and then he just like, oh, so are you going to be doing more stuff with Rafa? I said, yeah, I'm one of the main girls in the campaign. So he's like, oh, let's connect you with the UK guys, because obviously he's based in the US. And so he connected with me with people in the UK, and then my bike actually came from Japan, so like 3 months later. And so it kind of started off with like just riding the bike and posting about the bike, and then I guess I've become more and more involved in the vision of the brand and the things that it does, and a lot of it's social media campaigns. So we're expected to post a lot around, say, International Women's Day. If Cannondale have a certain theme and message that they're trying to get across, then we are that vehicle to convey that message.
It's so nice not to see someone show me their outfit hauls. When I go onto, I mean, you've got a whole insight of hauls that are bike related, and I think for someone that's looking to go into cycling, your page is so informative. Like, they could literally go onto your page and pick out so much information and start, and that's even without maybe DMing you, hi sis, you know, like, I'm really thinking of doing it, because the information is already transparent. It's there. This is what you need. These are the companies I work with. This is what I wear. One of your posts, you did talk about your hijab, that I think you're the only person that had your hijab custom or bespoke made. Is that something the company is actually providing for people? They're not.
So they did it for me, and the reason, if you don't mind me saying this on an open platform, is I don't feel like I'm famous because of my hijab. I don't feel like people have like followed me purely because I wear a hijab.
I agree.
And the reason I say that is because prior to Rafa, I have done modeling, and any modeling I've done subsequent to Rafa, is not based on hijab. It's based on the fact that I'm a cyclist, right? Yeah. So even if I didn't wear hijab and I was a woman and I was ethnic minority and I'm Muslim, I'm still underrepresented. Like, it's intriguing that I managed to keep my hijab on, like, during bike rides, but actually without the hijab, I'm still very underrepresented. And I was one of 5 women on the campaign. So the lead woman, Emily, like, she's gay, and sort of, what's her name? Kadina and Jules are black. And then Lindsay is white, but she was campaigning for endometriosis. I hope I've said that right. And how she suffers with it and how cycling helps her. Yeah. So we all had our story, but our story was cycling related. It wasn't hijab related. And yes. and I feel like I've had a couple of negative comments from people that I'm suddenly going to become Dina Tokyo or Amina Khan or whoever, taking my hijab off. But even if I did, it's irrelevant to what I do, because I'm not here as hijabi cyclist. I'm here as a cyclist who happens to wear a hijab and who's also very diverse.
A young British Muslim female. That's why I see it.
Yes, so like the hijab, they decided to make me the hijab because I was already wearing it. Yeah. So let's not just fixate on covering our hair or our heads. Mm-hmm. All the other girls got given shorts and jerseys. I got given shorts, a jersey, leg warmers, and arm screens, because I don't show my arms and I don't show my legs. So they made that dispensation for me because they knew that I need extra bits to cover, okay? And then they realized that if I already wear the hijab, wouldn't it be quite iconic, and wouldn't it be quite... they won't say it's good for marketing, but of course it's good for marketing to put my hijab. And also they didn't want to use sports hijab. They used a hijab like this, like an everyday hijab. Yeah. And they made it for me to model their kit. Ultimately, what was being sold when I'm on a billboard is not my hijab, is my kit. But with that comes my story, right? My story is not without the hijab. My story isn't without going to a mosque. You know, I rock up to mosques up and down the country with my bike in my lycra. And you know what, alhamdulillah, that goes into a bigger community. It's not Bangladeshi community, it's the wider community. And you know what, not once have I been turned down. Not once has anyone said anything about bringing my bike or wanting to pray or anything, subhanallah. In fact, I remember the other day at the mosque, the brother's like, he's leaving the security room, like, in and out, so he doesn't want to be responsible. He's like, sister, your bike is expensive. So he made me, like, put it inside the sisters' hall. Like, they genuinely want me to have somewhere safe to put my bike because they know it's expensive. And like, I found it quite disappointing that the BBC during Ramadan, like, ran an article about how mosques aren't welcoming, and how mosques treat women as second-class citizens, blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking, but I've got several examples to give you where I haven't been treated as a second-class citizen. And even in my, like, local mosque, that's a Bengali mosque, the only reason they didn't allow us to pray Tarawih the last couple of years is because of COVID, not because they don't welcome women. Like, I really liked it. I preferred it to East London Mosque or any other mosque, because I just walk to the bottom of my road and no one's pushing you for a space or nothing. Like, it's just really nice in the mosque. So it's just shocking how the media like to portray negative things, be it true, and amplify that negativity. Whereas I'm thinking, I've turned up in Brighton, I've turned up in Cambridge, Woking, the first mosque of the UK. I've turned up twice in my lycra. No one said anything, you know. So it's a shame that we like to highlight the negative things that aren't necessarily true or aren't necessarily the whole truth, you know.
It's good to know that they're welcoming. We know that as Muslims that mosques are welcoming, but obviously people within the mainstream media like to amplify things like that. But no, you know, I really want to quickly just touch up on a couple of things before we wrap up. Are you ever going to be thinking about doing the Hajj ride? That's one of them. Quickly.
Oh, that's my biggest ambition. You have no idea. I
I mean, you'd be the first woman.
I would want to be the first woman. I would not want to do it as a group or a charity ride or any, like, not a charity ride. I wouldn't mind fundraising for charity, but I've already been on Hajj and I know how deeply personal that journey is.
Yeah.
That if I were to do a bike ride, I would want to do it on my terms. Yes, I would like a support car and things like that, but also I would like it to be like a trip around the world. So say for example, if Hajj is in August and I leave in say January, and you know, we stop in Istanbul. I've been to Istanbul, but I would love to like spend a day there and then get back on my bike and do the trip to the next city. If there's places in the world that I've not seen before and I have the opportunity to see, then inshallah I'd like to do that to my journeying to Allah, right? I don't know if you okay, so I've read this book but not in completion. It's called The Difficult Journey. It's by Hajj Ahmed Thompson, and he's got a book called The Way Back, and it's talks about how they got to Hajj with very little money, and they didn't really use aeroplanes, and it was kind of like saying that they were new English converts, that kind of people donated money and they got on like cheap trains, and you know, it was a very long and hard journey, and he talks about Allah's miracles throughout that journey. That's the kind of journey I would like to have. And inshallah, I'm not married now, but I'd like it to be like something I would do with my husband, not something I would want to do as a group, because I can then do it at my own pace. No one is rushing me. If I want to see things and take pictures or whatever, I can do that at my leisure. But also, I've thought deeply about what I wear. If I was going to Allah's house, now I don't want to rock up in my lycra, you know? So I've thought a lot about, actually, when I do plan that journey, I have to think about what I wear, because even when I was going to some of the mosques, I did ride in a dress, but it didn't matter because I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't like, oh, I have to ride at 15 miles per hour and I need to catch up with this person, that person. Like, it was none of that. It was literally like, it's me, and I'll get to the mosque when I get to the mosque. So yeah, I definitely, it's high on my agenda. But also, when Cannondale asked me what is my biggest sort of hopes, dreams, aspirations, I said 5,000 kilometers to Mecca. I don't shy away from it.
I could really speak to you all day long, honestly. It's really interesting. But we're just gonna wrap up now, and I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know you're very busy, real limitations, work, etc., whatever. But I'm really thankful for you to giving me the time today, and hopefully going forward, I'm really looking forward to you achieving those goals you've got set. Hope you really, really do achieve them, because I know how passionate you are about it. So yeah, just want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. And I'm surprised you didn't get me to speak Bengali.
No.